Make Guts Dragonslayer from the acclaimed manga, Berserk, in wire. The Dragonslayer is definitely iconic among weapons. Guts uses this heap of raw iron to bludgeon and crush his enemies. This is for you, Kentaro Miura. Start with a forearm's length or half meter of wire. Measure 3 centimeters for the tip of the sword. Then measure about 12 centimeters for the edge. Use these sides to form the wide shape of the blade. The Dragonslayer sword is uncommonly large, heavy and wide. Form a wide base about 6 centimeters, tapering to the paired 3 centimeters tip. Close this shape. This serves as a temporary guide to the blade. Flatten and shape this guide accordingly. Straighten the wires and remove any kinks from this edge. Connect a meter length of wire at the tip of the blade, and anchor the wire. Bend a 1 centimeter segment from the tip along the center. Then bend 1 centimeter parallel to the 3 centimeters tip. Bend another 1 centimeter segment towards the angle, forming a trapezoid shape. Lock this trapezoid into place. This starts the frame of the blade. This design accounts for the tapers from every side of the sword. From this anchor, measure 1 centimeter then 0.5 centimeters to form a triangle. This forms the narrowest tapered edge viewed from the side. Lock this triangle. After, thread through the triangle and towards you. This places your wire to the right of your previous wire, in this orientation. This creates the diagonal line along the top surface of the sword. Loop the wire tightly to secure the joint. Measure a 4 centimeter segment for the spacing, then bend at a right angle towards the edge. Measure a 1 centimeter segment to connect to the edge wire. Fold over then complete this isosceles triangle with another 1 centimeter then half centimeter side. Measure 1 centimeter for the bottom half. Then close the triangle with a half centimeter segment. As before, loop over the diagonal line, then through the triangle. Tighten the loop, then thread through the isosceles triangle and towards the edge. Form another 4 centimeter spacing segment, then bend towards the edge. This time, measure 1.5 centimeters for this side. Measure another 1.5 centimeters, then a 1 centimeter segment for this triangle. Loop over the diagonal then through this medium triangle. See the pattern? The isosceles triangles increase by half centimeter for their sides. I unclasp the initial connecting edge wire to continue the tapering edge. After the 4 centimeter spacer, form a 2 by 2 by 1.5 triangle that loops over the edge. This is the large and last triangle of this left half of the blade. Proceed with this 2 centimeters. Then close the largest triangle with a 1.5 centimeters wire. Loop over, then through the triangle. This forms the left edge of the dragonslayer, on one side. Return to the tip and anchor. Then measure a 1 cm segment for the trapezoid. Once secure, we can start on the flip side of this left edge. As before, loop over the free corners of the tapering triangles, thread through and over. Here's the thread through, then loop towards you, ending up over the triangle side. The leading wire needs to end up away from the center line, as it bridges to the next anchor point. Measure the 4 cm spacers accordingly, then go down the line until the largest triangle at the base of the blade. As you go down the diagonal, check your alignments, making sure that the lines are parallel. The pattern will be the same as before on the opposite half. See how you are basically making rectangles and triangles? This was designed intentionally to keep the center tapering pentagon free of horizontal lines. It looks like there is an obelisk-shaped hole in the center of the blade, but I found this looks better than the alternative. You can use increasing sizes of hexagons, as in the Minato's Kunai tutorial, to make both right and left halves simultaneously. In contrast to this build where you build one side first, and use increasing triangles. We now arrive at the largest triangle at the base and lock accordingly. Attach a new wire for the right half. Attach the wire at its midpoint, at the free corner at the center line. Loop over and secure. One half will connect to the opposite trapezoid at the bottom, to complete the tip triangle with a 0.5 cm side. While this other line will start the right half of the blade. Close the triangle at the tip. Loop over and through to secure this half of the new line. Then, like before, following the edge as a guide, start forming the initial trapezoid, then the tapering triangles. Let's skip ahead to where the right half is completed. By locking this last diagonal joint, the inverted 3D V shape of the blade is complete. In this orientation, see how it looks like a 3D letter A? Lock the edge wire by looping over a side of the largest triangle. Do the same on the other side and check the alignments of your shapes. Now we can proceed with binding the base portion of the blade. Measure 3 cm for the center of the base. Loop and anchor the sides to form the base's center rectangle. Do this for both sides, to complete the rectangle. Thread around the vertices of the base. Continue to thicken the base with more bridges. Loop back to the right half and anchor as before. Now you can better visualize the alternative way to build this blade. You can make it using hexagons with increasing sizes of its sides, particularly those of the triangles at the edge. With the base done, we can start with the guard, which is a curved shape along the base. The curve spans the length of the center and is about 2 centimeters in height. I anchor the line, then make the curve. This is one of the unconventional features of this sword as the blade's base extends past the guard. Lock the curved guard on the horizontal axis of the base. And repeat on the other side. At this point the curves are free-floating, but will be made more secure later on. Cross towards the diagonal line of the center and loop over the 2 wires. This keeps the guard attached to the base. Here is where wire management comes in. Bring the edge wires towards the center by looping through the center rectangle. I ran out of wire, so I attach a new point at the center rectangle to form the next inner curve of the guard. I loop the midpoint of the new wire to form the curve, to have 2 longer free wires at the base, thereby extending the remainders you saw previously. Shape the wire for the half-hemisphere shaped guard. Make sure the anchor points are tight and secure. Bridge to the other half too from the inner curved guard portion. Loop over and around the base rectangle tightly to secure the lines as well as anchor the curved guard. Curve to shape, matching the opposite side, and along the curve of this half. I weave the wire through and around the curves to anchor the wire in place. The next step is to complete the base plate of the guard. Here, I do some cable management by looping and securing the lines for the next step. I spiral around the base's rectangle to thicken the base as well as bring the wire towards the left half of the base. The 6 points represented by the wires will be used to form the guard's rectangular base plate. Bend the longest wire at a right angle. Then intersect the 6 wires to form a rectangle. The rectangle follows the base rectangle, extending it below the blade, and towards the handle. I alternate looping over then looping under the wires to keep the leading wire horizontal then diagonal. See how here I loop through and above the wire at this corner segment? And note how this line falls below the blade. This time I loop under my wire. Here, I can return this wire to its starting position. I loop under and through the rectangle to secure this line. In this orientation, you can appreciate the extended rectangle. To taper the 6 free wires to the handle, we will build a hexagon. But first I loop the free wires around the sides of the rectangle inwards to lock the position. This ensures that the base plate of the guard will not move. Using the longest wire, I make a ½ centimeter sided hexagon. Once locked into shape, I place this at the center of the guard. Similar to my previous builds, loop through and over the shape with all the free wires. Place the hexagon at the center of the guard rectangle, and then lock all 6 sides. This feature is necessary as if you immediately bind all 6 wires together immediately, the handle becomes floppy and will bend more easily. Continue attaching the wires to the central hexagon. This also forms a collar around the handle which connects to the guard. I tighten the joints and secure the handle hexagon. Then, we can proceed to taper the wires to a single handle. Because of the small remainder wire, I trim it down a bit, then attach a new wire. I hook the new wire at its midpoint, then twist around the remainder wires, extending them slightly. I twist around the small wires until I am past them, then twist the extension twice more before straightening the wire. This was where I should have had more foresight. as longer pieces of wire at this point meant less extensions. Proceed to taper the 6 wires to a single point, the handle. Use the longest wire to closely and tightly bind the 6 tapering lines from the hexagon. Once done, make sure the loops are tight and secure. With the line secure, I can spiral down the handle, binding the remaining wires, for about 4 centimeters. I rotate the blade on its long axis to make this step easier. When I run out of one wire, I switch to a longer free wire, then continue down the handle. Let's skip ahead. Here is the handle done. Next is the pommel. I attach a short length of wire to the remaining free branches to create a pyramid-shaped pommel. Continuously loop over the 4 free wires as it widens to form the pyramid shape. Loop over as close as possible to make the pyramid shape as solid as possible nearest the handle. I could have made it a hollow frame pyramid, but a solid shape gives a heavy appearance. The pommel in the original design was small. I took creative liberties here and made it more prominent to better display the counterweight to an impossibly heavy and excessively large blade. Realistically, you need to be impossibly strong to even lift Dragonslayer, more so swing with intention, rather than just by its momentum. It is already a huge feat that Guts carries and lifts this heap of iron with one hand, more so swing it at his enemies. The bottom of the pyramid is made by looping the excesses through the lines of the pyramid. Thread the free wires through the lines of the pyramid and go around the sides until you can reduce the wires. Intersect and weave the wires over and under each other to lock the base of the pommel. Thread through the gaps and tighten as necessary. You can trim the excesses once the pyramid is solid. I hide away the remainder in between the gaps of the lines. This last line goes around the previous wire to finally lock the pommel in place. I fold over the tip, then hook the remaining wire into the pyramid to finish the pommel. I twist and adjust the lines of the pommel to get the correct alignment. For the final touch, I add a white wire spiral along the handle as the wrap. Pretty straightforward at this point. Hook at the top, then spiral down until you can knot at the bottom. I trim the excess, then spiral down further. Knot twice and then fold over the tip. The small bit acts as the excess cloth wrap of the handle. After some final adjustments and checking the alignment of your blade and guard, you're basically done. Check the alignment of the edges of the blade on all sides. Flatten the base of the pommel, and align it to the rectangle guard. Straighten the lines and check the taper from this top view. In this side view, you can appreciate the subtle taper towards the guard. And with that you're done. Guts iconic Dragonslayer from Berserk, 3D design in wire. Use this design to make a great sword for a heavy swordsman. Or scale one up for cosplay. Use the frame for paper mache. Or scale down for a keychain. Here is the sword side by side with an iconic panel from the manga, when Guts received the Dragonslayer. Guts is a very large, muscular and broad-shouldered human. And the iconic Dragonslayer represents the literal and figurative burdens he carries and his will to live on and move forward. Despite the change in proportions, was I able to capture the Dragonslayer in wire? Here it is with another excessively large and iconic sword, Ichigo Zangetsu from Bleach. Tutorial also linked below. Like and subscribe for more designs and tutorials. Which iconic sword would you like to see next? Read Berserk if you haven't. Thanks for watching.